In today's ThinkScript tutorial, I'll show you how to build a very simple volume intensity scan for the ThinkOrSwim platform. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to use our volume intensity indicator. This is a free indicator. I'll show you where to download it in just a second. But we're going to borrow some code from this indicator to measure what we call the volume intensity variable. We want to find where the current day's volume is, let's say, more than 2 times our average volume, either the 20-day, the 50-day, whatever you want. In this scan, we'll even build in some other conditions like excluding earnings-related volume bursts. There's lots of interesting things that I think you'll learn in this tutorial. Let's get started with first downloading the volume intensity indicator. You can download the volume intensity indicator from our website for free. It's tosindicators.com, and I'll leave the link in the description box below for the exact download. Just click this big green download button, and once you import it into your platform, here's what you'll see. Now this indicator will change colors based off of the volume intensity that we're seeing, and I have a few different examples plotting. This light green tells us that our current day's volume is more than 2 times that of our average volume. So we're seeing much higher than usual volume. This light red, which is what FXI currently has, is where you see the current day's volume is less than half of what our average volume is, meaning we're seeing much less volume than we're typically used to seeing. Now, when we built the indicator, one of the things we alluded to was it wasn't the actual day of the volume burst in which it made sense to enter a lot of these positions, or you saw the volume related move rather, but it was a few days after where you then had some more muted volume, and that was the time to actually accumulate the position before you saw the next burst in which the actual move took place. That was the overall idea of the pattern, and that's why in today's video we're going to build scans to identify both the muted volatility along with the heightened volatility. Now, the heightened volatility is what allows us to build a watch list of stocks that you want to pay attention to. The muted volatility is where you know that these stocks are in this extremely quiet zone, at least in terms of volume. All right, let's get started with opening up the ThinkOrSwim indicator code for the volume intensity indicator. And I'm going to start by copying the code for one entire symbol here. Let's go lines 17 through lines 30. I'll copy this code, come inside of our scan tab, and here I'm currently scanning in the weeklies watch list. This is a public watch list. You can find it under public and choose weeklies. I'm going to add a condition group, and here I'll choose the all of the following condition group, and I'll click add filter and select study. Underneath the dropdown, I'll select custom, select ThinkScript editor, and paste in all of this code. Now we'll see some errors. Let's start by addressing the first one, in which we need to remove where we specify the symbol. We're no longer looking at the volume for one particular symbol. Instead, we're looking at an entire watch list. That's why we're building this scan. We want to find the needles in the haystack that we want to pay attention to. Now the next error that we have is around length. That's because we didn't bring in the length variable. So let's go ahead and specify that. I'll use a length of 20 bars first. This is 20-day average volume that we're using. If you want to use the 50 instead, simply change this from 20 to 50. Now the next thing we can do is we don't need to see the actual points plotting here, so I can remove all of this code. Now all we need from our vol condition here is the intensity code, which gives us an idea of the different Boolean conditions we would want inside of our signal variable. So I'll say plot signal, which is what ThinkOrSwim is going to search for. And here we'll add in intensity 1 is greater than 2 for this particular scan. And this scan will be looking for volume bursts. If you want to really look for really large volume bursts, you can change this to something like 4. And that's one way that you can filter down your candidates even further if you see too many here. I'll click OK. So this is looking for a volume burst. And one other condition I want to add here is making sure that that volume burst is not a result of earnings related volatility. So I'll click add condition group. This time, I'll click none of the following, and inside of this, I'm going to add code checking if, let's say, we have earnings within the past 3 bars. So let's say earnings day has earnings. We can use the has earnings function. We practiced using this function when building the smarter earnings indicator, if you'd like to see another example. and I'll say plot signal is equal to sum, and earnings day should be, let's say, over the past 3 days. If it's equal to or greater than 1, meaning we had an earnings day anytime in the past 3 days, then this scan should be excluding those results when we actually run the volume burst. Now let's run this inside of the weeklies and see what we're left with. Now we have a few different stocks. Let's look at Dell here. So if I come into a chart of Dell, we can see if we come into the 20-day average volume, and I have Dell plotting up here as well, we can see the green label, and we can see that our average volume is 6.3, and our current day's volume is greater than 2 times that, which is why Dell meets our scan results. Let's say you wanted to filter this down even further. Let's change this from 2 to 3 times without earnings being a cause, and you're left with 2 different stocks. So that's our first scan that we're going to be building, which was around volume bursts. Here, if you remember, we changed the intensity variable. So that's one lever that you have. You can change this number right here, or you can also change the length ratio based off of how far back you want to go. Now we'll build the second scan in which we're looking for muted volatility. To do that, I'm going to simply change our intensity 1 from greater than 3 to be less than 0.5. Still using the 20-day volume, but you can change the length if you'd like. This time, we don't really need earnings, this filter here, since that filter made a little bit more sense for volume bursts, not volume contractions. So I can remove this condition group. Let's run this scan, same inside of the weeklies group. And here is where we saw FXI, and you'll find some other China-related stocks with Friday's closing activity. If you wanted to switch this from the daily time frame to the weekly, given that the week just ended, just change the aggregation period here, and now the scan is running on the weekly time frame. So you have a very quick, simple scan that scans for volume intensity. We look for both volume bursts along with muted volume. And if you tie this all back together with comparing that particular ticker with some of its, say, competitors here, instead of what I have right now, which are just examples of these increased and decreased volatility, that's where you can find some unique opportunities. Add those stocks to your watch list, or in many cases, that might be that second volume burst after that initial one that we talked about towards the beginning of this video. I hope you found this short ThinkScript tutorial useful in learning how to go from, in this case, our volume intensity indicator, borrowing a few lines of code, and turning that into 2 separate scans, one looking for volume bursts, one looking for volume contractions. Take care, everyone. Good luck trading, and I'll see you in our next tutorial.